Captain Marcus Reeves had exactly 30 seconds before the Valdorian execution chamber would reduce Princess Liarana to molecular ash. The crimson energy field hummed with lethal intensity as he dove through the fortress window. Plasma rifle? Blazing against the guard's ceremonial armor. Human fool. Liarana's voice carried both fury and desperation as Marcus severed her restraints with a precision laser cut. You have no idea what you've done. Her warning proved prophetic as the chamber exploded behind them. Marcus hauled the alien princess through corridors that seemed to twist with their own malevolent intelligence. Ah! Her crystalline skin shimmered, with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed in rhythm with her elevated heartbeat. Your rescue has doomed us both, she hissed, her forearms struggling against his grip. Valdorian Empire will never stop hunting us now. Marcus didn't answer. Immediately. He'd seen the intelligence reports about Princess Liarana's supposed war crimes. But something felt wrong about the whole situation. The way she'd been displayed like a trophy rather than treated as a true prisoner of war suggested political theater. Rather than justice, they reached his modified scout ship just as the fortress's defense grid activated. Energy cannons swiveled toward them with mechanical precision. Marcus shoved Liarana into the pilot's seat and fired the emergency thrusters. Feeling the acceleration pressed them both against the reinforced hull. You should have left me, Liarana said, her voice barely audible over the ship's straining engines. I am responsible for the massacre at Kepler Station. 10,000 human colonists died because of my orders. Marcus studied her alien features in the dim cockpit light. Her eyes held genuine anguish, but also something else, a flicker of confusion. That didn't match her confession. Maybe, he said, adjusting their course to avoid the pursuing fighter squadron. But I've read your military records. You're a tactical genius, not a war criminal. Someone wanted you dead for a reason. The princess fell silent as they entered hyperspace, her bioluminescent patterns dimming to a soft glow. Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that rescuing her had set something massive in motion, something that would either save humanity or destroy it entirely. Hours later, as they drifted in the void between star systems, Liarana spoke again. You truly believe I'm innocent? I believe you're more valuable alive than dead, Marcus replied. And I believe someone was willing to frame you for genocide to make sure you never discovered the truth. Her patterns flared brighter, and for the first time since the rescue, she looked at him with something approaching hope. Then perhaps your foolishness will prove wiser than my despair. The abandoned research station orbited a dying star, its hull scarred by decades of cosmic radiation. Marcus had chosen the location carefully isolated enough to avoid detection. But equipped with the quantum computers necessary to decrypt Valdorian military files, Princess Liarana worked with fierce concentration. Her forearms manipulating holographic interfaces with fluid precision. The data streams revealed patterns that made Marcus's blood run cold. The Kepler Station massacre was orchestrated by someone within the Valdorian High Command, she said, her voice tight with controlled rage. These communication logs show fake orders sent under my authorization. Marcus studied the evidence mounting. On the display screens, who had access to your command codes? Only 3 individuals, Liarana replied, her patterns flickering with betrayal. My father, Emperor Valorian, my brother, Prince Kestrel, and General Vorthok, my former mentor. Quantum analysis revealed something even more disturbing. The attack on Kepler Station hadn't been random, it had been designed to eliminate a specific research team working on faster-than-light communication technology. They weren't just killing colonists, Marcus realized. They were suppressing human technological advancement. Liarana's 4 eyes widened with understanding. The Valdorian Empire has maintained its dominance through superior communication networks. If humans developed instantaneous communication, it would shift the balance of power in the galaxy. Marcus felt the pieces clicking into place. And you were getting too close to the truth. Someone needed you silenced permanently. But why frame me for genocide? Liarana asked. Execution would have been simpler, because you're the Empire's greatest military strategist, Marcus said. Killing you quietly might have raised questions. But executing you as a war criminal? That sends a message to anyone else who might ask uncomfortable questions. The princess stood abruptly, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to deep purple. Valdorian expression of absolute determination. We need to reach the surviving researchers from Kepler Station. If any of them escaped, they might have copies of the communication technology. Marcus was already plotting their course when the station's proximity alarms began screaming. 3 Valdorian cruisers had dropped out of hyperspace, their weapon systems charging with ominous energy. How did they find us? Lorena demanded. Marcus checked his ship's systems and found the answer. A quantum tracker had been hidden in the princess's ceremonial armor, something so advanced that even his military-grade scanners had missed it. They've been following us since the rescue, he said grimly. This was all a setup. Lorena's patterns flared with realization. They wanted me to lead them to any evidence of the conspiracy. By rescuing me, you've helped them tie up loose ends. The cruisers opened fire, and Marcus knew they had minutes before the station's failing shields collapsed completely. But as he prepared their escape route, he noticed something in Lorena's expression, not fear, but calculation. What are you thinking? He asked. I'm thinking, she said, her voice carrying deadly resolve, that it's time to stop running and, start fighting back. The Valdorian cruisers expected a desperate escape attempt, not the coordinated strike that erupted from the dying research station. Princess Lorena had transformed their refuge into a weapons platform, using her intimate knowledge of Imperial technology to turn the station's dormant systems against their pursuers. Target their communication arrays first, she commanded her. Forearms dancing across control interfaces. Without coordination, they'll be vulnerable to individual attacks. Marcus piloted their modified scout ship through the debris field, using the station's wreckage as cover while Lorena guided their assault. The first cruiser's communication array exploded in a shower of sparks, leaving its crew isolated and confused. The humans have a saying, Marcus said, dodging return fire. The best defense is a good offense. Your species has many violent sayings, Lorena replied, but her patterns showed grudging admiration. This one proves useful. The second cruiser attempted to retreat, but Lorena had anticipated the maneuver. She'd programmed the station's final defensive protocol of gravity, mine that trapped the vessel in a crushing field of spatial distortion. Warning the others was their mistake, she said, watching the cruiser's hull buckle under impossible pressure. Now we have one remaining enemy in all their tactical data. The final cruiser's captain proved more cunning than his colleagues. Instead of engaging directly, he began broadcasting on all frequencies, calling for Imperial reinforcements while maintaining a defensive position. He's stalling, Marcus realized.
Oh.
Buying time for backup to arrive, Lorena's patterns shifted. Too deep read the Valdorian equivalent of a predatory smile. Then we'll have to be creative. She activated the station's emergency beacon, but instead of calling for help, she broadcast a carefully crafted message that would reach every Valdorian vessel in the sector. Citizens of the Empire, her voice rang out across the void. I am Princess Lorena, daughter of Emperor Valorian, and I have been betrayed by those sworn to protect our people. The massacre at Kepler Station was not my doing, but the work of conspirators who would see our empire built on genocide and deception. The effect was immediate. The remaining cruiser's crew could be heard arguing over open channels, their loyalty wavering as doubt crept into their ranks. You're starting a revolution, Marcus observed. I'm revealing the truth, Lorena corrected. Revolution is simply the inevitable result. The cruiser's captain made a desperate final gambit, launching every fighter in his bay toward the station. But Marcus had been expecting this move, and he guided their ship into the swarm with deadly precision. Your flying skills are impressive for a human, Lorena said, her patterns brightening with genuine respect. Your tactical planning is impressive for anyone, Marcus replied, threading between fighter formations. The Empire is about to learn what happens when they betray their greatest military mind. As the last fighter exploded against the station's hull, the cruiser's captain sent a final transmission. The Emperor will never forgive this betrayal, Princess. You have doomed yourself and your human ally. Lorena's response was calm but implacable. Tell my father that his daughter remembers her oath to protect the innocent. If he has forgotten his, then perhaps it's time for new leadership. The cruiser jumped to hyperspace, carrying news that would shake the Empire to its foundations. But as Marcus and Lerona prepared to leave the destroyed station, they both knew their real battle was just beginning. The safe house on Nexus Prime had been compromised within hours of their arrival. Marcus kicked over the table as plasma bolts seared through the air where his head had been, while Princess Lerona returned fire with a salvaged Imperial rifle. How many? Marcus shouted over the din of combat. 12 assault troopers, plus support units, Lerona replied, her patterns flashing. Tactical assessments. They're using standard encirclement protocols. Marcus grimaced. Standard protocols meant they were dealing with regular Imperial forces, not the elite units that would have been sent for a princess. Someone wanted this to look like an authorized mission while maintaining plausible deniability. The conspiracy runs deeper than we thought, he said, triggering a smoke grenade. They fought their way through the building's service tunnels. But Marcus could hear more troops arriving outside. The Imperial forces had apparently decided that subtlety was less important than results. There's something you need to know, Lorena said, as they paused at a junction. The quantum tracker wasn't just following us, it was recording everything. Every conversation, every data file we accessed. Marcus felt ice in his veins. They know about the Kepler station evidence. Worse, Lerona continued. They know we've identified the 3 suspects. One of them is already moving to eliminate the others. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. If the conspirators were cleaning house, it meant they were preparing for the final phase of their plan. Whatever they'd been working toward, the princess's escape had accelerated their timeline. We need to reach the surviving researchers, Marcus said, before they disappear permanently. Agreed, Lerona replied. But first, we need to survive the next 10 minutes. The assault troopers had found their position. Marcus and Lorena burst from the tunnel system into the building's main lobby, where 24 Imperial soldiers waited with weapons raised. Surrender, Princess, their commander called out. The Emperor has authorized your return to face justice. Lerena's patterns flared with bitter amusement. Justice. From the man who ordered the massacre of innocents? You stand accused of war crimes against the Empire, the commander continued. Come quietly, and your human companion will be granted a swift death. Marcus stepped forward, his rifle trained on the commander's helmet. Counteroffer. You let us walk out of here. I won't demonstrate why humans earned their reputation as the galaxy's most effective soldiers. The standoff stretched for endless seconds. Then Lerona made a decision that would reshape the Empire's future. I invoke the right of challenge, she announced, her voice carrying across the lobby. As a princess of the royal bloodline, I demand trial by combat against the Empire's champion. The commander's weapon wavered. The right of challenge was an ancient law, rarely invoked, but impossible to ignore. By imperial statute, Lerona could demand single combat to prove her innocence. The Emperor will name his champion, the commander said uncertainly. Then let him, Lerona replied. Until that time, I claim sanctuary under the old laws. Any who violate my rights will face the Emperor's judgment. The legal technicality bought them time, but Marcus knew it was a desperate gamble. The right of challenge meant Lerona would eventually face the Empire's greatest warrior in single combat battle. She might not survive. As they walked through the ranks of uncertain soldiers, Marcus whispered, Do you have a plan, Lerena's? Patterns showed grim determination. I have hope. Sometimes that's enough. The Imperial Colosseum had hosted 10,000 years of gladiatorial combat, but never had the stakes been higher than this moment. Princess Lerona stood in the arena's center, her ceremonial armor gleaming under the artificial suns. While 50,000 spectators watched in stunned silence, Emperor Valorian himself sat in the royal box, his ancient face carved from disappointment and rage. Beside him, Prince Kestrel leaned forward with barely concealed anticipation, while General Vorthok maintained the stoic expression of a career soldier. Citizens of the Empire, the Emperor's voice boomed across the arena. Today we witness justice. For the massacre at Kepler Station, my daughter will face War Master Drakthon in single combat to prove her innocence or die for her crimes. Marcus stood in the designated observer section, his hands clenched into fists. He'd tried to convince Lerona to flee rather than face the Empire's greatest warrior, but she'd refused. "This is bigger than my survival," she told him. "The people need to see that justice still exists in the Empire." War Master Drakthon entered. The arena to thunderous applause. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, his cybernetic enhancements gleamed like polished chrome. He'd never lost a single combat in 40 years of service. "Princess Lerona," his voice carried without amplification. "I have served your family faithfully. Do not force me to kill you for the honor of the Empire." "Then don't," Lerona replied. Drawing her plasma sword, "help me save it instead." The combat began with explosive violence. Drakthon's enhanced strength and speed should have ended the fight within seconds. But Lerena's tactical brilliance kept her alive through the opening exchange. She used the arena's obstacles as cover, turning the gladiatorial environment into a three-dimensional battlefield. Her 4 arms allowed her to wield multiple weapons simultaneously, creating attack patterns that even Draken's combat computers couldn't fully predict. "She's magnificent," Marcus breathed, watching the princess dodge a strike that would have bisected a lesser warrior. But raw skill could only compensate for so much. Drakthon's cybernetic enhancements were overwhelming Lerena's natural abilities. A crushing blow sent her sprawling across the arena floor, her armor cracked and sparking. "Yield, princess," Drakthon commanded, his weapon raised for the killing. "Blow. Your father grieves enough." Lerena struggled to her feet, her patterns dim with exhaustion. "I cannot yield when innocent blood demands justice." She made a final desperate gambit, launching herself at Drakthon with everything she had left. But instead of striking at his body, she targeted his cybernetic interface, the neural link that connected his mind to his enhancements. The precision. Strike disrupted his augmented reflexes just long enough for Lerena to press her plasma sword against his throat. "Do you yield, War Master?" she asked. But Drakelin's response shocked everyone in the arena. "I yield to the rightful heir of the Empire. Princess Lerona has proven her honor in combat." The crowd erupted in confusion. Emperor Valorian rose from his throne, his face purple with rage. "The combat is not concluded. Fight until one of you is dead." Drakthon turned to face the royal box, his voice carrying across the arena. "With respect, my emperor, the princess has won honorably. To continue would be murder, not justice." "Then you are both traitors," Prince Kestrel snarled, stepping forward. "Guards, arrest them both." But the Imperial guards remained motionless. The ancient laws of combat were clear interference with a concluded duel was itself treason. General Vorthok stood slowly, his expression unreadable. "The princess has proven her innocence through trial by combat. The law is satisfied." Marcus felt the political earthquake beginning. By supporting Lerona publicly, War Master Drakthon had forced the Empire's military leadership to choose sides. The conspiracy was about to be exposed, but the price would be civil war. The Imperial Palace erupted into chaos as news of the arena trial spread. Throughout the Empire, Princess Lerona's victory had done more than prove her innocence. It had shattered the careful balance of power that had kept the Empire stable for centuries. Marcus found himself in the unlikely position of tactical advisor to a revolution he'd never intended to start. The palace's war room buzzed with activity as Lerona coordinated with military commanders who declared their loyalty to her cause. 17 systems have declared independence, reported Admiral Kane, her scarred face. Grim with determination, they're demanding investigation into the Kepler Station massacre. "And my father's response?" Lerena asked, her patterns displaying the controlled fury of a leader pushed beyond her limits. "He's declared martial law," General Vorthok replied. The old soldier had surprised everyone by joining Lerona's faction, bringing with him nearly half the Imperial military. Prince Kestrel has been named military governor of the core worlds. Marcus studied the tactical displays showing troop movements across the galaxy. He's consolidating power, like classic authoritarian playbook create a crisis, then use it to justify absolute control. "More than that," Lerona said, her 4 eyes reflecting the star charts. He's preparing to eliminate anyone who might challenge his authority. The purges will start within days. The war room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Empire that had dominated the galaxy for millennia was tearing itself apart, and humanity was caught in the crossfire. "We need to move quickly," Marcus said. "Every hour we delay gives them time to strengthen their position." "Agreed," Liarana replied. "But we also need to be smart about this. A direct assault on the core worlds would cost millions of lives."
Admiral?
Kane leaned forward. "What did you have in mind, Princess?" Liarana's pattern shifted to deep blue, the color of strategic thinking. "We expose the conspiracy publicly, show the Empire exactly who ordered the Kepler Station massacre and why." "Evidence was destroyed when we escaped the research station," Marcus pointed out. "Not all of it," Liarana said with a fierce smile. "I've been in contact with the surviving researchers, managed to preserve copies of the faster-than-light communication technology. More importantly, they recorded the conversations that prove the conspiracy." General Vorthok's expression darkened. "You're talking about broadcasting classified Imperial communications? That's treason against the state." "The state committed treason against its own people," Liarana replied. "We're simply returning the favor." The plan was audacious in its simplicity. Using the new communication technology, they would broadcast the evidence simultaneously to every world in the Empire. The truth would spread faster than any military response could suppress it. But as they prepared for the broadcast, Marcus received a message that changed everything. The transmission was brief and coded, but its meaning was clear. Prince Kestrel had captured the surviving researchers and was preparing to execute them publicly as traitors. "It's a trap," Marcus said, showing the message to Liarana. "He knows. We'll try to rescue them." "Of course it's a trap," Liarana replied. "But it's also our only chance to save innocent lives and expose the conspiracy." "You're talking about assaulting the most heavily defended installation in the Empire," Admiral Kane protested. "The casualties would be enormous." Liarana's patterns flared with determination, and will have to be cleverer than they expect. "Marcus, how do you feel about leading the most dangerous rescue mission in galactic history?" Marcus felt the familiar thrill of combat preparation. "I feel like I'm about to regret saving a certain alien princess." "Good," Liarana said, her patterns brightening with something that might have been affection, "because I'm about to give you even more reasons to regret it." The Imperial Detention Center on Kronos Station represented the Empire's most secure facility, massive structure, suspended in the gravity well of a neutron star. Marcus studied the tactical displays with growing unease as Princess Liarana outlined their infiltration plan. "The station rotates every 6 hours to prevent gravitational stress," she explained, her patterns cycling through calculations. "We'll have a 30-minute window when the detention levels align with the docking bay. 30 minutes to infiltrate. Locate the researchers and extract them from the most secure prison in the galaxy," Marcus said. "Has anyone mentioned this plan is completely insane?" Admiral Kane nodded grimly. "The defensive grid alone has more firepower than most battle fleets. Even if we reach the station, we'll never make it out alive." "Which is why we're not going to fight our way out," Liarana said. "We're going to disappear." The princess activated a holographic display showing the station's internal structure. At its core, the detention center housed a prototype teleportation chamber, experimental technology that could transport matter across vast distances instantaneously. "The teleporter is designed for cargo transfer between star systems," Liarana explained. "It's never been tested with living subjects, because it's insanely dangerous," General Vorthok added. "The molecular disruption could kill us all." "Less dangerous than Prince Kestrel's execution chambers," Marcus pointed out. "What are our odds of success?" Liarana's patterns dimmed to amber, the color of uncertainty. "Honestly, about 12%. But the alternative is letting innocent people die while the Empire slides into tyranny." The assault team consisted of Marcus, Liarana, and 6 of the Empire's most elite soldiers who declared for the princess. They approached Kronos Station in a modified transport ship, its hull configured to mimic a routine supply delivery. "Imperial Control. This is Transport Vessel Meridian requesting docking clearance." Marcus transmitted, his voice professionally bored. Meridian, you are cleared for Bay 7. Maintain standard approach vectors and prepare for inspection. 8. The station's massive bulk filled their viewports as they approached. Marcus could see the weapon emplacements tracking their movement, ready to reduce them to molecular dust at the first sign of deception.
Oh.
Remember, Lirona said as they prepared? To board, we have one chance at this. If we're discovered before reaching the detention levels, the mission fails. They moved through the station's corridors with practiced stealth, using Lorena's intimate knowledge of Imperial security protocols to avoid detection. The princess's patterns had dimmed to near invisibility, a defensive response that made her nearly invisible to the station's sensors. The researchers are being held in maximum security block 7, she whispered, checking the facility map. 3 levels down past the automated defense grid. Marcus felt sweat beating on his forehead as they descended deeper into the station. The artificial gravity felt wrong, too heavy, too oppressive. The neutron star's influence was affecting even the station's life support systems. Contact, one of the soldiers reported, patrol approaching from the east corridor. They pressed against the wall as a squad of Imperial guards marched past, their weapons at ready. Marcus held his breath as the soldiers passed within inches of their hiding spot. Clear, Lirona whispered. They reached the detention block to find it more heavily guarded than expected. Prince Kestrel had apparently anticipated their rescue attempt and tripled the security presence. 12 guards, plus automated defenses, Marcus counted. This is going to be loud. Then we make noise, Lirona said, her patterns flaring with battle-ready intensity. Fast and hard, before they can raise the alarm. The assault began with coordinated precision. Marcus's team moved like a single organism, their weapons cutting through the Imperial guards with lethal efficiency. Lirona led the charge, her 4 arms wielding weapons with deadly grace. But as they breached the cell block, Marcus realized they'd walked into something far worse than a trap. The researchers were there, but they weren't alone. Prince Kestrel himself stood waiting, flanked by a dozen of his personal guards. Sister? He said with a cold smile. How predictable. Prince Kestrel's personal guards were cybernetically enhanced killing machines, each one worth a squad of ordinary soldiers. Marcus dove behind an overturned desk as plasma fire filled the detention block, his rifle returning carefully aimed shots at the advancing warriors. You always were too sentimental, Lirona, Kestrel called out, his voice carrying over the sounds of combat. Father tried to teach you that mercy is weakness, but you never learned. Princess Lirona fought with desperate fury, her forearms creating a whirlwind of steel and energy. But even her legendary combat skills were being overwhelmed by the enhanced guards' superior numbers and firepower. The researchers, she gasped, using her plasma sword to parry a crushing blow. Are they alive? For now, Kestrel replied, stepping over the bodies of Marcus's fallen soldiers. But their usefulness is ending, as is yours.
Tacticness.
Situation collapsing around them. Half their assault team was down, and the prince's guards were closing in for the kill. They needed a miracle, or everyone in the detention block would die. Lirona, he called out, the teleporter. The princesses. Patterns flared with understanding. The experimental transportation device was their only escape route. But activating it would require someone to reach the control center 3 levels above them. I'll go, Marcus said, checking his ammunition. You hold them here? No, Lirona replied, her voice carrying absolute authority. I need you to protect the researchers. The teleporter requires Imperial authorization codes. Only I can activate it. Before Marcus could protest, she was moving. Her enhanced physiology allowing her to leap between the detention block's levels with impossible grace. Prince Kestrel's guards tried to follow, but Marcus's covering fire forced them back. Touching Kestrel said, his weapon trained on the cowering researchers, she's going to die to save people she's never met. How very ... human of her. Maybe that's why she's a better leader than you'll ever be, Marcus replied, his rifle finding its target. The plasma bolt caught one of the guards in the chest, sending him crashing against the wall. Leadership requires hard choices, Kestrel snarled. Father understood that, The Empire's survival matters more than individual lives. The Empire's survival depends on its people trusting their leaders, Marcus countered. You destroyed that trust when you ordered the massacre at Kepler Station. Kestrel's expression shifted from arrogance to fury. Those colonists were developing technology that would have destabilized the galaxy. Their deaths prevented a war that would have killed billions. Their deaths started a war that's going to kill billions, Marcus said. Good job, Your Highness. Above them, the station's lights flickered as Princess Liarena reached the teleporter controls. The experimental device was powering up, its energy signature causing reality itself to waver around the detention block. She's actually going to do it, one of the researchers whispered, his voice filled with awe. She's going to save us all.
But
Prince Kestrel had one final card to play. From his armor, he produced a neural disruptor, a weapon designed to interfere with the teleporter's quantum matrix. If he activated it during the transportation process, everyone in the detention block would be scattered across the galaxy as random particles. If I can't have the Empire, he said, his finger hovering over the activation trigger, then no one can. Marcus made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Instead of diving for cover, he launched himself at Prince Kestrel. Knowing that the neural disruptor would kill them both when it discharged, the weapon fired just as the teleporter activated. Bathing the detention block in impossible light, Marcus felt his molecular structure beginning to dissolve, his consciousness scattering across the quantum foam that connected all things. But in that moment of dissolution, he heard Princess Laruna's voice carried across the dimensional barrier. Thank you, Marcus, for everything. The last thing he saw before the universe exploded into fractured light was the prince's face, twisted with the realization that his final gambit had failed. Marcus awakened to the impossible sensation of having his atoms reassembled one by one. The teleporter's quantum matrix had somehow reconstructed him from the molecular chaos of Prince Kestrel's neural disruptor. Though the process felt like being reborn through fire and lightning, he's alive, Princess Liarana's voice cut through the haze of consciousness. The quantum resonance preserved his neural patterns. Marcus opened his eyes to find himself in a medical facility he didn't recognize. The researchers from Kronos Station were there, along with several figures in imperial military uniforms. But something was different about Liarana. Her patterns were brighter, more complex, as if the teleporter had somehow enhanced her natural abilities. Where are we? Marcus asked, his voice hoarse from the molecular reconstruction. The Free Colony of Haven, replied Dr. Vela, one of the rescued researchers. Dada! The teleporter transported us here, but the quantum interference from the neural disruptor created some interesting side effects. Side effects? Marcus sat up, wincing as his rebuilt nervous system protested the movement. The neural disruptor's energy signature contaminated the teleporter matrix, Dr. Vela explained. Instead of just transporting us, it connected us to the quantum communication network that Prince Kestrel was trying to suppress. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. We're linked to the faster-than-light communication system. More than linked, Liarona said, her patterns shifting to colors he'd never seen before. We've become part of it. The quantum entanglement allows us to communicate instantaneously across the galaxy, which means, added Admiral Kane, stepping forward with a datapad, we can coordinate the rebellion in real time. The Empire's communication advantage just became our greatest weapon. Marcus struggled to process the revelation. The desperate rescue mission had somehow transformed them into the galaxy's first quantum-enhanced humans, capable of thought-speed communication across unlimited distances. But Prince Kestrel? He asked. Dead, Liarona said simply. The neural disruptor's feedback loop destroyed his neural patterns before the teleporter could reconstruct them. He died trying to prevent the very thing he'd been fighting against. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus. In his final moments, Prince Kestrel had inadvertently created the technological breakthrough that would end the Empire's dominance over galactic communication. What's happening in the Empire? Marcus asked. Admiral Kane's expression darkened. Civil war? Emperor Valorian has declared Leona dead and named General Vorthok as his successor. But half the military refuses to accept the appointment. There. Demanding proof of my death, Lirona said, her patterns cycling through strategic calculations, which gives us an opportunity. Oh, what kind of opportunity? Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. We're going to broadcast the truth about Kepler Station to every world in the Empire simultaneously, Lirona explained. The quantum communication network will carry our message faster than any military response can suppress it. Dr. Vela nodded enthusiastically. The quantum entanglement allows us to bypass all traditional communication barriers. Every Imperial world will receive the transmission at the same moment. Marcus felt the familiar thrill of an impossible mission. And then we let the Empire's people decide their own fate, Lirona said, her patterns brightening with determination. The truth has a way of destroying tyranny, given enough time. How long will it take to prepare the broadcast? Marcus asked. We're ready now, Dr. Vela replied. The quantum network has been active since our reconstruction. We're just waiting for your authorization, Princess. Lirona looked at Marcus, her alien features reflecting something that might have been hope. Any final words of wisdom from the human who started this revolution? Marcus smiled, feeling the weight of history settling on his shoulders. Sometimes the best way to save someone is to let them save themselves. The quantum broadcast began at 0800 Standard Imperial Time, reaching every inhabited world in the Empire within the same nanosecond. Princess Lirona stood before the transmission array, her enhanced patterns, creating a hypnotic display of light and color that commanded attention across 1,000 star systems. Citizens of the Empire, her voice carried across the galaxy. Am Princess Lirona, and I speak to you from beyond the grave to reveal the truth about Kepler Station. The evidence that followed was devastating. Communication logs, tactical reports, recorded conversations between Prince Kestrel and his co-conspirators painted a picture of premeditated genocide designed to suppress human technological advancement. The imperial capital world of Valoria. Emperor Valorian watched the broadcast from his throne room as riots erupted in the streets below. The carefully constructed narrative of his daughter's war crimes was crumbling in real time. And with it, his authority over the Empire. My Lord General Vorthok entered the throne room, his armor still bearing the scars of recent combat. Military is demanding your immediate resignation. They're calling for a new government under Princess Lirena's leadership. The Emperor's ancient face showed no emotion as he watched his empire dissolve before his eyes. She was always the better leader. I should have seen it sooner. On distant frontier worlds, planetary governors declared independence from imperial rule. The revelation that their own government had ordered the massacre of innocent colonists shattered the last remnants of imperial legitimacy. Marcus watched the galactic transformation through the quantum network, his enhanced consciousness touching the minds of billions of people simultaneously. The sensation was overwhelming. Joy, rage, hope, and despair flowing through the collective consciousness of an entire civilization. It's working, he told Lirona, his voice filled with wonder. The Empire is dissolving peacefully. Choosing their own governments? Not everywhere, Lirona replied, her patterns darkening with concern. The core worlds are mobilizing their remaining fleets, preparing for a final assault on the colonies that have declared independence. Dr. Vela's voice carried urgency as she monitored the quantum network. I'm detecting massive troop movements. They're converging on the Terran sector. They're going to make an example of humanity. Marcus felt his enhanced consciousness reach across the void, touching the minds of the human colonists preparing for war. They were afraid, but determined, ready to fight for the freedom that the princess's sacrifice had made possible. We can't let them massacre innocent people, he said, his voice carrying the weight of shared determination. We won't, Lirona replied, her patterns flaring with royal authority. The quantum network doesn't just allow communication, it allows coordination. We're going to turn the Empire's own technology against them. The plan was audacious beyond imagination. Using the quantum entanglement, they would coordinate the actions of every rebel ship, every resistance cell, every independent world simultaneously. The Empire's forces would face not scattered opposition, but a unified galactic resistance, moving with perfect synchronization. Attention all free worlds, Lorona broadcasts through the network. This is Princess Lorona of the former Valdorian Empire. Today we fight not for conquest, but for the right of all species to determine their own destiny. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Ships from 100 worlds began moving toward the Terran sector. Their crews linked through the quantum network into a single coordinated force. Admiral Kane's voice crackled through the communication. Array, Princess, we're detecting surrender signals from Imperial ships across the galaxy. Their crews are refusing to fight against their own people. Marcus watched through the quantum network as the final Imperial fleet approached Earth Star System. But instead of the massacre that Emperor Valorian had planned, they found themselves facing a force that moved with inhuman precision. Every ship, every weapon, every tactical decision coordinated through quantum entanglement. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it ended, the last Imperial fleet had surrendered, and the tyranny that had dominated the galaxy for 10,000 years was finally broken. It's over, Lorona said, her patterns cycling through exhaustion and relief. The Empire is dead. No, Marcus replied, his enhanced consciousness touching the minds of billions of liberated beings. The Empire is transformed. You didn't destroy it to evolve it into something better. 3 months later, Marcus stood on the observation deck of the new Galactic Council headquarters, watching as representatives from 1,000 worlds worked to build a government based on cooperation rather than conquest. The quantum network had become the foundation for a new form of democracy, one where every citizen could participate directly in the decisions that affected their lives. Princess Lorona approached, her patterns now showing the deep satisfaction of a leader who had seen her people choose freedom over security. Any regrets about saving an alien princess? She asked, her voice carrying the warmth of genuine affection. Marcus smiled, remembering the frightened, angry being he'd rescued from the Valdorian execution chamber. Only that it took me so long to realize you were saving me too. The galaxy is a better place because of what we did, Lorona said, her patterns brightening with hope. Humans and Valdorians working together, sharing knowledge instead of hoarding it. And the faster-than-light communication technology? Marcus asked. Open source to every world that wants it, Lorona replied. No more information monopolies. No more isolated colonies. The galaxy is connected now, truly connected. As they watched the sun set over the new capital, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought them here. A simple rescue mission had become a galactic revolution, and the alien princess, who had once sworn he would regret saving her, had never stopped thanking him for it. The quantum network hummed with the voices of 1 trillion beings, all connected, all free, all working together to build a future that neither tyranny nor fear could destroy. In the end, the greatest victory hadn't been defeating the Empire, it had been proving that different species could trust each other enough to share the universe as equals. So what happens now? Marcus asked. Lorena's patterns shifted to the deep blue of infinite possibility. Now we explore the galaxy together. There are still worlds to discover, species to meet, and challenges to overcome. No, but we'll face them as partners, not as conquerors. Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of the future settling on his shoulders like a comfortable burden. The human who had once been a simple soldier had become something greater, a bridge between species, guardian of freedom, and a friend to the alien princess who had transformed his understanding of what it meant to be truly alive. The quantum network carried their shared consciousness across the galaxy, touching the minds of beings who had never known freedom until now. In that moment, Marcus understood that saving Princess Lorona had been the beginning of something far greater than either of them had imagined. He had regretted nothing, and she had never stopped being grateful. In the end, that was the foundation upon which a new galaxy was built: trust, sacrifice, and the simple recognition that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the chance to become who they were always meant to be. The stars stretched endlessly before them, and for the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy was truly free.